Welcome! In this session, we'll explore one of the most important ideas in PyTorch, tensor. A tensor is the core data structure that everything in PyTorch is built on. You can think of a tensor as a container that holds numbers, similar to an array in NumPy, but far more powerful. Tensors are used to represent data like images, text, or sensor readings, and they can perform large-scale mathematical operations very efficiently, especially on GPUs. In the next few slides, we'll learn what tensors are, how to create them, how to inspect their properties such as shape and data type, and how to move them between devices like the CPU and GPU. By the end, you'll be comfortable creating and working with tensors in PyTorch. A tensor is one of the most important concepts in PyTorch and in deep learning in general. You can think of a tensor as a flexible container for numerical data, almost like a spreadsheet, but designed for mathematical operations. At its simplest, a tensor can hold a single number, which we call a scalar. If it holds a sequence of numbers in a single line, that's called a vector. If it organizes numbers into rows and columns, that forms a matrix. And when you stack or extend these structures into more dimensions, you get higher-order tensors. What makes tensors powerful is that PyTorch can handle them efficiently, even when they become very large or multidimensional. Tensors are the building blocks of everything in PyTorch. All the data, the model parameters, and even the gradients that update the model during learning are stored as tensors. So whenever you see PyTorch code, remember, behind every image, every word embedding, and every neural network weight, there's a tensor quietly doing the math. In PyTorch, there are three straightforward ways to create a tensor. First, you can create a tensor from existing data. Use torch.tensor, followed by parentheses, that contain a small list or array of numbers. For example, you might pass a short list to make a one-dimensional tensor. This approach is handy when you already have values in Python that you want to work with immediately. Second, you can initialize a tensor directly with built-in helpers. Torch.zeros makes a tensor filled with zeros. Torch.ones makes a tensor filled with ones. And torch.randn creates a tensor of random values drawn from a normal distribution. These are great for prototyping, for allocating model parameters, or for setting up inputs when you don't yet have real data. Third, you can convert from NumPy. If your data starts as a NumPy array, torch.from _NumPy will wrap it as a PyTorch tensor without unnecessary copying. This makes it easy to move existing scientific code into a deep learning workflow. Keep these three patterns in mind: from data, initialized directly, and converted from NumPy. Together, they cover almost every situation where you need to create new tensors quickly and cleanly. Each tensor in PyTorch has a few key attributes that describe what it looks like and how it behaves. The first one is called shape. You can access it using .shape. The shape tells you the dimensions of a tensor, how many elements it has in each direction. For example, if your tensor represents a small image, the shape might show its height, width, and the number of color channels. Knowing the shape helps you understand how data flows through your model. The second attribute is data type, which you can check using .dtype. This tells you what kind of numbers are stored in the tensor, such as integers or floating point values. Most deep learning computations use floating point types because they support fractional values. Finally, every tensor has a device attribute. You can access it with .device. This shows where the tensor is stored, either on the CPU or on the GPU. The device matters because all tensors involved in a single operation must be on the same device. In PyTorch, we perform most of our mathematical work through tensor operations. These operations are both expressive and efficient, letting you write simple Python code while PyTorch handles the heavy computation underneath. The first category is element-wise math. This means performing arithmetic on each element individually. You can add, subtract, multiply, or divide tensors using regular Python symbols, plus, minus, star, and forward slash. PyTorch automatically matches shapes when possible and applies the operation element by element. Next, we have matrix multiplication, one of the most fundamental operations in machine learning. You can perform it using torch.mm or with the @ symbol, spoken as A at B. Matrix multiplication combines data in ways that form the backbone of neural network layers. Finally, there is reshaping, which changes how the data is organized without changing its values. You can do this with dot view or dot reshape. Reshaping is crucial when preparing inputs or connecting layers that expect specific tensor shapes. Together, these operations allow you to transform and combine data flexibly in any PyTorch workflow. For many students, the best way to understand PyTorch is to compare it with NumPy, because they share a lot of ideas. In fact, a tensor in PyTorch behaves very much like an array in NumPy. Both use similar syntax for creating data, slicing elements, and applying mathematical operations. PyTorch even supports broadcasting, which means that operations automatically expand across compatible shapes, just like in NumPy. However, PyTorch tensors offer a major advantage: GPU acceleration. With NumPy, all operations happen on the CPU. In PyTorch, a tensor can live on a graphics processor, performing thousands of computations in parallel. This makes deep learning models much faster and more efficient. Another advantage is easy conversion. You can move data between NumPy and PyTorch with just one line of code. For example, a NumPy array can be wrapped as a PyTorch tensor using torch.dot from _NumPy, and a tensor can be converted back using .NumPy. So if you already know NumPy, you'll feel right at home with PyTorch, but you'll gain the power of GPU computing and automatic gradient tracking. In PyTorch, every tensor lives on a device, either the CPU or the GPU. Understanding how to manage these devices is essential for running your code efficiently. You can first check whether your system supports GPU acceleration by using torch.CUDA is _available parentheses. If this command returns true, it means that PyTorch has detected a compatible graphics processor. If it returns false, computations will run on the CPU instead, which is perfectly fine for learning and small projects. Once you confirm GPU access, you can move a tensor to the GPU using the dot to command with CUDA, as shown in the example. When you want to move it back to the CPU, you use the dot to command again, but this time with CPU. It's important that all tensors involved in a single operation are on the same device. Mixing one on the CPU and another on the GPU will cause an error. Managing devices correctly ensures that your computations run smoothly and at top speed. Let's look at a quick practical example to connect everything we've learned. Here, we start by importing the Torch library, which gives us access to all of PyTorch's core functions. Next, we create a random tensor using torch.randn with a shape of 3 by 3. This produces a small grid of random numbers, which we can use to test operations. Then we check if a GPU is available by calling torch.CUDA is _available. If PyTorch detects a graphics processor, we move the tensor to the GPU using the dot to command with CUDA. Otherwise, it simply stays on the CPU. After that, we perform a basic arithmetic operation, multiplying the tensor by 2. This demonstrates how PyTorch can handle mathematical operations seamlessly on whichever device the tensor lives. Finally, we print the result to verify that the computation worked. This short example shows how easy it is to create, move, and manipulate tensors in PyTorch, whether you're running on a laptop CPU or a powerful GPU. When you start working with PyTorch, you'll quickly discover that most errors aren't because of complicated bugs. They're because of small but common mistakes. Let's go over a few of the most frequent ones. The first issue is mixing CPU and GPU tensors. PyTorch doesn't allow you to perform operations between tensors that live on different devices. For example, adding a tensor on the CPU to one that's on the GPU will cause an error. The solution is to make sure both tensors are on the same device before performing the operation. The second mistake involves shape mismatches in matrix operations. When performing matrix multiplication, the inner dimensions must align. If they don't, PyTorch will report a size mismatch error. Always check each tensor's shape attribute before combining them. Finally, a frequent source of confusion is using the wrong data type. Operations between integers and floating point numbers can sometimes fail or produce unintended results. To fix this, confirm that your tensors share the same data type, such as float 32. By paying attention to these details, you'll save time and avoid many beginner frustrations. Before we wrap up, let's take a moment to review what we've learned in this session. We started by exploring what a tensor is, the core data structure in PyTorch. A tensor can store numerical data in one or many dimensions, making it powerful for representing everything from simple lists to images and higher dimensional data sets. You learned how to create tensors from data or initialize them directly, and how to inspect their attributes like shape, data type, and device. We also saw how tensors can move easily between the CPU and GPU to take advantage of hardware acceleration. We practiced performing basic operations, reshaping tensors, and identified common mistakes to avoid, such as mismatched shapes, device errors, or incompatible data types. By mastering these fundamentals, you now have the foundation to build and train deep learning models in PyTorch. If you have any questions or parts that felt unclear, this is a great time to pause and reflect, or bring your questions to our next class or discussion. Let's keep learning together.